No, 7 to 16 shloka we saw last time, which is talking about how a karma yogi, how he can perform a nishkam karma yoga by fixing one's mind upon the soul. है ना? So how a karma yogi, when he fixes his mind upon the knowledge about the atma, knowledge about the soul, then how he becomes free from the bondage. That was being discussed in this section, 7 to 16th verse, right? Just to see, 7 to 10 shloka was talking about what are the characteristics of a nishkam karma yogi, who has reached to the level of fixing one's mind uh, upon the soul, who has got a very deep realization of not being a body but a soul. So they were being mentioned. And then 13 to 16th were talking about the knowledge about the three doers. So, what is the role of the soul, what is the role of the material nature, and what is the role of the Lord, that we discussed. So basically, what was the link, that how a Nishkam Karm Yogi, now he is able to understand that what is the role of the material nature, what is the role of the Lord, and what is the role of me, the soul, in different actions which are happening. So because he has this knowledge, he understands that how, I am not acting, no, I am not acting. It is only because of the swabhavas which I have acquired. No, the things are happening in this world. So because he has this knowledge, and he has no emotional attachment to his actions. He does not desire any enjoyment. He knows that I'm a soul. Uh, I have nothing to do with the material enjoyment. And only because I am into this material body, I'm into this material world, the body is performing some actions because of the previous swabhavas, the previous conditionings by the modes which has happened. So because he has this knowledge, because of which he is able to have a detached consciousness. He has no more desire for enjoyment, and he understands that how the Lord is making me, the Lord is a sanctioner, and I have desired it, and the material nature is making me function. So because he's acting with this knowledge, what happens is he does not become bound by the karma. He's free from the reactions of the activities which he's doing. That was the theme of the this shloka. That a Nishkam Karmogi, he knows about the role, about this, how the actions are happening. What is the role of the soul? What is the role of the Lord? What is the role of the material nature? And because of this knowledge, he's able to have a detached consciousness, a consciousness without any desire for material enjoyment. And because of which, what is happening is, even though he's performing different actions, even though he is acting as a doer, but still he's not a doer. Okay, so this is the main thing. This was a link, 13 to 16 shloka. And now the last section, 17 to 29. Here now, this talks about more elevated karma yogi, nishkam karma yogi. A nishkam karma yogi who is not simply fixed in the knowledge about the atma, about the soul, but who is also now understanding about Paramatma, or the Supreme Lord. Not Paramatma exactly, but Supreme Lord. It may be his Brahman understanding or Paramatma understanding. So he is now elevated in his knowledge, and he understands that how I am not the body, I am the soul, and at the same time, there's one Supreme Lord. There's some Supreme also, for who should be my goal, for whom I should work. So so this last session is going to talk about that, 17 to this further chapter, okay? So just let me just open the document file. There are some more discussions which can be done of what we discussed. So maybe mostly by tomorrow we should be able to finish this chapter. So just we'll show you one, two more things in the shlokas which we saw last time, which will be also helpful for all of us. See this, just the 16th shloka. The 16th shloka is a transition shloka, okay? Right. So this shloka was there. Na jnanena tu tad ajnanam yesham nashitam atmanah tesham adityavach jnanam prakashyati tatparam. When, however, one is enlightened with the knowledge by which nescience is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything, as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. So what happens is, see, before this was that how, no, a jiva is acting because of its swabhava. Swabhava is basically the three modes. No, we have acquired, we are under the effect, we are under the effect of the three modes, which we have acquired because of our association with this material world. Okay, and why we have acquired this three modes? Because of the agyana. So in this shloka, 16th shloka, Krishna is mentioning that how, when one's jnana, when one's agyan is removed by the jnana, by the knowledge, then what happens? Then the knowledge reveals. The knowledge reveals. Okay. So see, already he has knowledge about the soul. But now see here it says prakashyate tatparam. Na, tatparam. Tatparam means the supreme. So what happens is, when the agyan is being removed, when the ignorance is being removed, then a person, then the knowledge dawns, then the knowledge comes. Which means what? A Nishkam Karmi Yogi, he starts understanding about the supreme. No, he is not only understanding about the soul, but he also start understanding about the supreme. Tatparam. Prakashyati tatparam. Then what happens? He gets revelation about the Supreme Lord also. So that was the meaning, in this 16th shloka. And the further shloka is now going to talk about what does he does after understanding about the Supreme Lord. That is the further shlokas. See, this was the thing, but the Pashan says, that how when the Jiva's knowledge destroys ignorance, that knowledge, like the sun, reveals the Supreme Lord and the Jiva. So he starts getting understanding about the Lord also. That is the thing, okay? So in 17th shloka is very beautiful. Some more discussion we can do here. So see this 17th shloka onwards, see what is the thing? Once one understands about the absolute truth, then one starts making him as the object of one's meditation, as one's goal. So this shloka is also very important. We discussed it, but some more discussion we can do. It says, Tad buddhaya tad atmanas tad nishthas tad parayana gachanti apun avritam jnana nirdhuta kalmasha. So when a Nishkam Karmi Yogi has awakened the knowledge about the Supreme, he is now understanding that there is some Supreme. He has very good understanding about the Supreme. Then what happens is he starts focusing upon that Supreme. And how does he start focusing upon the Supreme? He has to fix his consciousness. So how does he fix his consciousness? So see that is being mentioned in this shloka, that how he starts fixing his consciousness and what is the result of that fixing his consciousness. Okay. So this is very important for us also as a sadhakas. You see, we say na consciousness, we say chetana, consciousness. So the chetana or the consciousness, you see, it has four faculties, or it has four, you can say, ingredients. Or let us say it is a road having the four lanes. जो हमारी चेतना होता है, मतलब ना चेतना, कृष्णा consciousness. चेतना जो है, चेतना is determined by these four lanes, the four components. There are four things, or the four components of our consciousness that is being mentioned here. You see, tad buddhaya. So what are those four components? Right? Buddhaya means the intelligence, है ना? And atmanas here refers to the mind, because see here it is talking about inner things, है ना? Atma can also mean the body, Atma can also mean the soul, but here it talks more about the mind. So what happens? Tad means what? Supreme. So one starts investing his buddhi upon the Supreme. One starts investing one's mind upon the Supreme. Then tad nishtha. Nishtha means what? Faith. One starts investing one's faith upon the Supreme. And tad parayana. Parayana means what? One becomes parayan. Parayan means one becomes dedicated. One fixes समथिंग एज वंस गोल. बोलते हैं ना कि वो यार ना वो पैसे पाने के लिए बहुत परायण है ना, या फिर वो विद्या पाने के लिए बहुत परायण है. परायण मतलब कि वो उसको अपना गोल बना लेता है. तो तो ये चार चीजें हैं, इंटेलिजेंस, माइंड, faith, and goal. What happens is a Nishkam Karma Yogi, once he is awakened in the knowledge about the Supreme, then he starts investing all these components upon the Supreme. Now, his buddhi, that is his intelligence, his mind, his faith, and also his goal. He fixes, or he makes the Supreme Lord as his goal. This is being spoken. And what happens by this? Gachanti apunar avritam. And by doing this, what happens is apunar avritam. He moves towards the liberation. He does not have to again come back for birth and death. Jnana nirdhuta kalmasha. Jnana nirdhuta kalmasha. He's free from all kinds of impurities. Because of the awakening of this knowledge about the Supreme, and because of fixing of one's consciousness upon the Supreme, what happens is one starts becoming cleansed from all kinds of impurities, kalmashaha, because of this knowledge which awakens in one's life. So you see, in our life also, see these four things. See, just small discussion about this. See, intelligence. So see, in our bhakti also, in our spiritual journey also, our consciousness is determined our consciousness is determined by these four faculties. Okay. So see, we need to invest our intelligence. Indeed, you will find the spiritual life begins with intelligence only. Like, we come for device, and we understand that how we are not the bodies, we are the soul. Soul is a part and parcel of God. We are suffering in this world from the adhyatmic, adi bhautik, adi devik, four real problems. So what happens is we get convinced intellectually, we start getting convinced about the truth of life, right? And then we have to read the Shastras, as a sadhaka now. We have to study the Shastras. When we read the Shastras, we get the knowledge. We get the knowledge that how the material happiness cannot give us the satisfaction. It is not permanent. It is only temporary. Only spiritual happiness can give us a permanent happiness in our life, right? I think recording is not good today, right?
हो रहा है कुछ।
Go ahead. Okay, going on. Okay, fine. So see, so we have to we need to invest our intelligence. That happens by when we learn the Shastras, when we contemplate upon the Shastras, we contemplate about the upon the knowledge which is given in the Shastras. Okay, that is one thing. Then second thing also, we need to also invest our minds upon that what we upon the knowledge. Mind also needs to be involved. Mind means what? The emotions also needs to be involved. Right? For example, like we are doing chanting. So now we have heard about chanting, that how chanting is the Yuga Dharma. It can cleanse our hearts. Cheto Darpana Marjanam happens, right? So we have got some knowledge about the importance of chanting. But then when you have to chant, then you have to chant with feeling also that how it is the Supreme Lord. Krishna is there in His holy name. Uh, Everything related to Krishna is absolute. And we should pray, we should be prayerfully chanting, that, oh Lord, I want to serve you, I'm suffering in this world, right? So we try to invest our emotions also, in that, right? And then nishthas means faith. One should also have a faith that how, if I chant Hare Krishna, now with a deep absorption, with a deep attention, then chanting is going to cleanse my heart. Chanting is going to give me the love for Krishna. Chanting is again going to awaken my love for Krishna. That faith also has to be involved into that. And not only that, it has to be done for a proper objective also, for a proper goal. So we are chanting for what? For the goal of getting Krishna Prem. We are not chanting Hare Krishna with feelings and with faith just for the getting some material benefits. No, we are doing it for Tata Parayana, for the Supreme. Now, we are not trying for some other Parayana, for getting some material benefits. So all these four components has to be there. See, the thing is that how we can invest. It may happen that we are investing only our intelligence, but we may not be investing our mind. We may not be having faith, right? For example, like let us say, uh, for example, no, for example, like most of our material studies which we do, which we have been doing, we have studied chemistry, physics, and mathematics and all those things, right now. So we have tried to learn them with our intelligence. But but we are not emotionally involved with that knowledge. No, you have read this you have read this theorem, this theory, that theory, Darwin's theory, atomic theory, right? But you are not emotionally, you have no emotions. Your mind is not there. You are just studying for the sake of going to the exams, writing exams, and getting some good grades and be happy, right? So you study them. You are using your intelligence for studying them, but your mind is not involved there, right? This is one example. Okay. Now, you may invest your intelligence, you may invest your mind also, emotions also, but then you may not have faith, right? For example, like let us say, uh, like suppose people don't have so much faith upon the Ayurvedic treatments. So now somebody has tried a lot of other things, allopathic treatment, homeopathic treatment, many things one may have tried, and he is not able to get cured. Then somebody may suggest that why don't you try for naturopathy, or why don't you try for this Ayurveda? So okay, now he wants to get cured of the disease, and so he may go for Ayurvedic treatment. Okay, now he may be using his intelligence that okay, so there is a cup with vata, and the doctor is telling that how, and I'm having an imbalance of, let us say, cough. So these things will be helpful for me to eat. One is when one is taking treatment, he's investing his intelligence. Okay, and he's emotionally also, he wants to get cured. He wants to become happy. So emotionally is also involved in the treatment, but then his faith may not be there. Nishtha may not be there. He's not so sure that whether this treatment will work, whether Ayurveda is really authentic, whether it will work or not, right? So this is there. One may be intellectually uh, trying to work upon something, one may be emotionally also getting involved with something, but one may not be doing it with faith. That may also happen. Okay, and now one may be doing with faith also, but then one may not be going for the right objective, right goal. So that's why all these four components constitutes our consciousness. We need to have an investment of our intelligence. We need to have investment of our minds, emotions in our activities, and we also need to have faith upon those activities. And we also have to long for the right goal in our life, right? Like I gave you for the example of chanting, right? So we are chanting because we got some knowledge. chanting cleanses our hearts, and how chanting removes all kinds of dirt from our heart. And then emotionally also we become involved in chanting. We pray to the Lord, you know, and then we derive faith upon the chanting, by associating with other devotees, by studying from the Shastras. We have to do it with faith, and then we have to also do it for the right goal, that is for getting the Supreme Lord in our life. So this is the thing. So this is what is telling, that how a Nishkam Karmi Yogi, because he is now awakened in the knowledge about the Supreme, he starts investing his faculties of his consciousness, for practicing Nishkam Karmi Yoga, by fixing one's mind upon the Supreme. And in that way, what happens? He becomes very quickly purified. He's able to become, get liberation. That's what is the theme of this shloka. Okay. So see, just one small thing here for our understanding. So see how the consciousness slowly, it evolves. Okay. So see, here is a mention about the sadhya and the sadhan. Right? Sadhya means what? The goal. The parayana. That came, tat parayana. Right? Tat means the supreme, of course, here. So sadhya means the goal which we want to achieve in our life. And sadhana or sadhan is what? The means by which we want to get that goal in our life. Right? For example, like for all of us in the bhakti. Now, so what is our sadhya? Bhakti is only our process, right? Chanting, hearing, and all. And what is the sadhana also? Sadhana is also the same thing. Of course, our sadhya is Krishna Prem and serving Krishna, loving Krishna in the spiritual world. That's our sadhya. And the means for it is also the bhakti, the same activities. Okay. So now see how there's an evolution of the sadhya and the sadhana, right? You see here, sadhya, like first a person may desire only material things. No, fun, like most of the people in this world, so they desire only material things, material happiness in this world, like temporary things in their life, right? Eventually, then if one become more elevated, then one may desire temporary and permanent, right? Like most of us also, no, we want good material life, and we also want to go back home, back to Godhead, right? So both things we want good, right? So that's the second level. And when become more elevated, then one desires only eternal goal. One has only eternal goal. That my only goal is to go back home, back to Godhead. Irrespective of whether what kind of material life I may get or not. But my desire is only for I'm convinced to only get material happiness, spiritual happiness, and going back home, back to Godhead. So this is how one how one elevates. And same way in terms of understanding also, one may have an initial understanding about the Brahman, and then eventually one may get elevated with the knowledge about the Bhagavan, the highest, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, right? So this is how one may progress in one's sadhya, right? Similarly, sadhana also, right? Sadhana means the means, the process. This is KK for karma kand, right? So one may be doing karma kand. When one has only desire for material temporary goals, then one may be doing karma kanda, or one step below the karma kanda is living a karmi life, not even living a religious life, just living a life for sense gratification, right? That's all part of. So of course, but it is not a sadhana. Okay, that's a material sadhana. So one may be performing karma kanda when one is having only a temporary goal. But once one is awakened once one starts developing faith upon some spiritual goal, then the yoga becomes. So initially one may do sakam karma yoga. Okay. And then as one becomes more advanced, one may go for the nishkam karma yoga. Okay. And as one progresses more, one may also want to go for the Gyan Yoga, which means one has become detached from all the material activities, and he is fixed in the goal of the Supreme. It may be Brahma Jyoti, or it may be Paramatma, or it may be uh, Brahma Jyoti or Paramatma mainly. Okay, and or if somebody becomes more elevated, he may also get elevated to the Dhyan Yoga. Dhyan Yoga means Ashtanga Yoga, where the person becomes fixed upon the Paramatma. His goal becomes the Paramatma in the heart. Okay, and if one becomes completely advanced, then he may go for the Bhakti Yoga. And in Bhakti Yoga also, initially one may be doing Bhakti Yoga with material desires. It may be Sakam, it may be, Karma Mishra Bhakti or Jnana Mishra Bhakti, Yoga Mishra Bhakti. But eventually, as one becomes purified, one will come to the Kevala Bhakti. Kevala Bhakti means pure devotional service. Anya Abhilashita Shunyam, Jnana Karma Adi Anavitam, Anukulina Krishna, Shrina Bhakti Rutam, right? So this is how the elevation of the consciousness happens, and the elevation of one's sadhana and the sadhana happens. Okay. So, anyways, in this shloka, Krishna is telling that how one has to invest one's consciousness, which happens by investment of these four items. So we have to have an investment of our intelligence, the investment of our minds, the investment of our faith, and the investment of the right goal in our life. Then we can very quickly move towards the ultimate goal. Okay. This was the 17th shloka. We have discussed it already right now. Now, next shloka, Krishna is mentioning that now once a person starts doing like this, once a person starts focusing upon the supreme in this way, then what becomes his vision? What kind of vision he gets? It's a very famous shloka. How the person is able to see the world. It's very beautiful shloka. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Shuni Cheva Sopake Cha Pandita Samadarshinaha. Right. So Vidya Vinaya Sampanne, right? Vidya means the knowledge, the knowledge, right? What is the knowledge? The knowledge means one is awakened in the knowledge about the soul and the supreme. One knows that there is a Atma and there is a supreme which accompanies the Atma. So when one gets this knowledge, the Sampanne, one becomes Sampan, once becomes equipped with this knowledge, then what will happen? He will be able to see everyone with an equal vision. Brahmane, Brahmana, Gavi means a cow, Hastini means elephant, and Shuni means dog, and Sopak means what? One who eats dog, a dog eater, right? They're called as a Chandala, right? देखिए ये जो चार कैटेगरी ना, ब्राह्मण, क्षत्रिय, वैश्य और शूद्र, they are the proper caste. They are within the Vedic fold. और इसके जो बाहर है उसको आउटकास्ट बोलते हैं. आउटकास्ट में जो वैदिक धर्म को फॉलो नहीं करते. इवन शूद्रा विल फॉलो द वैदिक धर्म. Shudra will also follow the Vedic duties of life. And that's why the Shudra will also become elevated in the consciousness. But then there are outside this, those who don't follow the Vedic culture, the Vedic caste system, they are called as the outcast. So उसमें क्या आते हैं? Malech, Yavan, and Chandala. Like that, that categorization is there, right? Those who are not followers. So all this Malech, Yavan, and Chandal, they are the people who are not the followers of the Vedic dharma, right? So they are cow flesh eaters, they are pig eaters, and they are the animal eaters like that, So they are there. So when we said Sopak means one who eats the dog, like he's an outcast. The Pandita Samdarshina. Pandita means one who has become learned. He is able to see them equally. So once a person is awakened in this knowledge, then one is able to see with an equal vision, which means what? One is able to see that how, these are all external garments, but within all of this is a pure soul, accompanied by the Supreme Lord. That is how one is able to see them, Right? A Brahmana is there, right? Gavi means cow, right? So cow is basically, cow is the animal of the mode of goodness. Elephant is elephant is an animal of the mode of passion. And a dog is a elephant of the mode of ignorance, right? So basically one is able to see that beyond these three modes is a pure soul who is also accompanied by the Supreme. In that way, one is able to see them equally. One sees that it is a pure soul. That's the humble sage, by the virtue of the true knowledge, sees with equal vision a learned and the gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater, right? So specifically, the example is given of cow, elephant, dog to mention about that how one is able to see beyond the three modes. And also Brahmana is within the Vedic caste system, okay? And dog eater, Chandala, he's outside the caste system also. One is able to see even an outcast is also ultimately the supreme, the soul, So in that way, he is able to see them equally on the level of the soul. That what it means, So Prabhupada is also mentioning that how one is able to see that how the Atma is there and there's a Paramatma accompanying the Atma. So, okay. Achha, one important discussion, see. So equal vision does not mean equal reciprocation, but it means appropriate reciprocation, okay? तो सी ऐसा नहीं है कि है ना इक्वल विजन मतलब कि सबको समान दृष्टि से देखने का मतलब ये नहीं है कि ना उनके प्रति जो हमारा व्यवहार होगा वो भी समान होगा. No, not like that, Equal vision means what? We understand that how they are also pure souls. One understands that they are all pure souls, but they are in different bodies. They are being affected by the three modes in different ways. So one will deal with them appropriately, right? For example, like Brahmana is there. No, he is seeing a cow. No, a Brahmana may, like a person may go near the cow, he can embrace the cow, etc. Right? But he cannot do the same thing with the elephant. He cannot do the same thing with the dog, right? So there has to be different dealing with it, right? If the cow comes in the home, then you may give him chapati, you may touch, But if a dog comes, you're not going to touch, you're not going to allow him to enter inside the house, right? So you may have to deal with them appropriately in different ways. But yeah, at internal level, you understand it how all of them are equal, right? So this is the vision of a this is the vision of the advanced soul, one who has become fixed up in the knowledge about the Paramatma, the knowledge about the Supreme. Okay. Now next shloka, 19th shloka. So what is the result of such vision? Right? When a person is having this kind of equal vision, then what is the result of this? That is being mentioned here. इहेव तेरजितः सर्गो येषां सम्ये स्थितं मनः निर्दोषं हि समं ब्रह्म तस्मात् ब्रह्मणि ते स्थितः. Right? Iha eva. Iha means in this life. Certainly. Teha jitaha sargaha. Sarga means what? The repetition of birth and death. So a person conquers the repetition of the birth and death, which means a person gets out of the cycle of the birth and death. A person who has developed such kind of vision, he can conquer the birth and death. That is one thing. Yesham samye sthitam manaha, right? Yesham samye. Samye means what? Equanimity. It's saman. स्थितम मना, जिसका मन इस तरीके से इस तरीके से समानता से देखना स्टार्ट कर लेता है ना, उसके लिए क्या हो जाता है ना, he has already conquered the birth and death, which means what, he's going to be not affected by the birth and death, he has reached to the platform of the soul. He is no more identifying with the body, he can get out of the repetition of the birth and the death, because he is situated upon the platform of the soul, he is able to see on the platform of the soul, right? Right? Nirdosham hi samam brahma tasmat brahmani te sthitah, right? Nirdosham, he becomes flawless. He becomes free from all kinds of flaws, right? Which means he becomes free from here it specifically means the three modes. He becomes freed from the effect of the three modes. He is no more under the effect of the three modes. And samam brahma, right? Brahma means the supreme or the platform of the soul. So one becomes situated on the platform of the soul. Tasmat brahmani te sthita, right? One becomes situated on the platform of the soul. You see, those whose minds are established in the sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. They are flawless like the Brahman, and thus they are already situated in the Brahman. Right? Brahman means what? The spiritual platform. Or basically, the spiritual platform is what? That one understand that I am not the body, I am the soul, and I have nothing to do. I have nothing to do with the enjoyment of this material world. One has no more desire or hankering for material enjoyment. See, in this world, what happens is when we misidentify ourselves with the material body, with the material world, then we have so many desires for material enjoyment, and then we have so many anxieties and all the material distress that come in our life. Once a person is awakened once a person has come to this platform that I'm a soul, I'm a part and parcel of God, and the material enjoyment is not my goal of life, it is not meant for me, then what happens is one becomes freed from the effect of that, freed from the effect of the material desires, and one is able to situate oneself on the platform of the soul. So basically, one attains Brahman, which means what? One is as good as being one is as good as being into the Brahman, because he's on a spiritual platform. He has no more desires. He has no more material desires for the material enjoyments. That is being told, because his mind has become equipoised, right? Please read the purport, any of you.
Equanimity of mind, as mentioned above, is a sign of self-realization. Those who have actually attained to such a stage should be considered to have conquered material conditions, especially birth and death. As long as one identifies with his body, he is considered a conditioned soul. But as soon as he is elevated to the stage of equanimity through realization of self, he is liberated from conditional life. In other words, he is no longer subject to take birth in the material world, but can enter into the spiritual sky after his death. The Lord is flawless because he is without attraction or hatred. Similarly, when a living entity is without attraction or hatred, he also becomes flawless and eligible to enter into spiritual sky. Such persons are to be considered already liberated, and their symptoms are described below.
So in this world, in this world, when we identify with the material enjoyment, then what happens? We desire certain things and we hate certain things. We have some attachments and we have some aversions, rag and dvesha, right? Because we want to enjoy in certain ways, and there are some things which we see as a success of our efforts and something we see as a failure of our efforts. Because we have all material calculation. But what happens here? Because the person becomes situated on the spiritual platform, then he goes beyond this material calculation, because he has no more desire for material enjoyment. That happens. Okay. Next shloka. Next shloka. Now Krishna is going to mention that how one can situate oneself in such equal vision, how one can situate. Okay. So the last series, this is the last series of the shlokas, 20 to 29. So it is going to mention about how, how a advanced Nishkam Karma Yogi who is fixed upon the knowledge about the Atma and the Supreme, how, what are his behaviors, what are his behaviors. So it is both ways. They are giving description about the behaviors, and they're also giving prescriptions. Prescriptions means, they're telling that how one should elevate oneself to this platform. So both things are being mentioned here in this shlokas. So see, this talks about the last series of the verses about the characteristics or the qualities which are naturally possessed by the siddhas. Siddhas means those who have become perfect Nishkam Karma Yogis, with their minds fixed upon the knowledge about the soul, and the knowledge about the Paramatma or the Supreme. So these are the qualities which are possessed by them, and also these are the qualities which can be cultivated by the sadhakas. Those who have not become siddhas yet, they can also consciously cultivate them. So that is being spoken. So see, 20th shloka. न प्रहर्षेत प्रियं प्राप्य नोद्विजेत प्राप्य चा प्रियम स्थिर असम्मूढ़ो ब्रह्मविद ब्रह्मणि स्थितः, राइट, ब्रह्मणि स्थितः, राइट, जो एक बार इस प्लेटफॉर्म पर सिचुएट हो गया है ना, ब्रह्मविद मीन्स वन हु हैज अंडरस्टूड द सुप्रीम, वन हु हैज अंडरस्टूड द सुप्रीम एंड वन हु हैज बिकम सिचुएटेड ऑन द स्पिरिचुअल प्लेटफॉर्म, तो उसके लिए क्या होगा, न प्रहर्षेत, ना प्रियम प्राप्य, राइट, किसी प्रिय वस्तु को पाने पे वो रिजॉइस नहीं करता है, वो हैप्पी नहीं बनता है. He does not become happy or joyful upon getting something as per his desire. And न उद्विजेत प्राप्य च अप्रियम, राइट, अप्रिय को प्राप्त करके वो उद्विग्न नहीं होता है. उद्विग्न होना मतलब कि एजिटेटेड फील करना, ना डिस्ट्रेसफुल फील करना. So if he does not get the desired object or desired success, then he does not become disturbed. Basically, he becomes equipoised. If the success comes, happiness comes, he has, he does not rejoice. And if the failure comes, distress comes, he is also not affected by them, because he understands that all these things are temporary, these are material. Sthira buddhir, his intelligence becomes sthir, fixed. And asammudo, he's not bewildered. He does not become uh, bewildered, he does not become confused, he does not become, he does not come under the effect of the three moods. He's he's situated on the platform of the spirit soul. Okay. The translation: a person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, who is unbewildered, and who knows the science of God, is already situated in the transcendence. So what will happen is one will not become emotional. See, once one is spiritually situated, one is able to see that I am not the body, I am the soul, and how this is supreme. Now my goal is supreme. My goal is not material enjoyment. Then what will happen? He will not become affected by the dualities, because he will not become emotionally involved with them. For example, uh, like let us say, uh, suppose, now suppose if somebody becomes ill, the body becomes suppose ill. Now one understands that this body is only temporary. I have nothing to do with material body. Even though the body is going through certain course, okay, I will take treatment, I will take whatever precautions is required, and I will try my best to get it cured, but I will not become too much involved. My emotions are not involved with the treatment of my body. That's the big thing, right? Another example, let us say, like there's a cricket match now. Like at one point of time, it may be mattering us a lot. There's a match between India and Pakistan, and it may have mattered to us a lot that India should win against the Pakistan and all those things, right? But now, once you become elevated in the spiritual knowledge, then it does not become. Then you are no more affected by it. Whether India is winning or Pakistan is winning, or whatever is losing, but because we are not getting emotionally involved with those things, right? Otherwise, when we don't have this knowledge, we become emotionally involved with the things of this world. We invest a lot of emotions, because in ignorance we involve those emotions. But a person like this, he has got realization of the soul platform. So he is no more affected by all this, happiness and the dualities which comes in one's life. Okay, right? Please read the purport. Prabhupada's purport.
The symptom of the
The symptoms of the
self-realized.
self-realized person are given herein. The first symptom is that he is not illusioned by the false identification of the body with his true self. He knows perfectly well that he is not this body, but is the fragmental portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is therefore not joyful in achieving something, nor does he lament in losing anything which is related to his body. This steadiness of mind is called Sthir Buddhi or self intelligence. He is therefore never bewildered by mistaking the gross body for the soul, nor nor does he accept the body as permanent and disregard the existence of the soul. This knowledge elevates him to the station of knowing the complete science of the absolute truth, namely Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. He thus knows his constitutional position perfectly well without falsely trying to become one with the Supreme in all respects. This is called Brahman realization or self realization. Such steady consciousness is called Krishna consciousness.
Yes, so once a person is having a steady consciousness, once a person is situated in the spiritual platform, then he gets revelation about the absolute truth. He understands, he starts understanding about the Brahma Jyoti, the Paramatma, and the Bhagavan aspect, right, pertaining for the devotees. Okay. So here, anyways, so these were the characteristics. Okay. Now next shloka again. Right, further characteristics you see. 21st shloka. Vahaya sparsheshva asaktatma vindati atmani yat sukham sa brahma yoga yuktatma sukham akshayam ashnute. Right. Vahaya sparsheva asaktatma. Right. Vahaya sparsheva. Right. External sense pleasure. Vahaya sparsheva. Right. Sparsh. The sense. How do we enjoy sensually? When the sense objects they come in the touch with the senses, then we enjoy. Right. The material sense gratification is all about. It is all about coming of the sense objects and the senses in contact. That leads to some material enjoyment. Okay. So he's saying ki na asakt atma. One is not asakt atma, right? He has no more asakt atma. No, he has no. He has become detached from that asakti, right? Bhai spashyev. One becomes detached from the sense gratification, from the external sense gratification. Okay. And vindati atmani yat sukham. Vindati means enjoys, right? Vindati atmani yat sukham. No, he enjoys happiness within. Uh, so the first line is he's become detached from the external happiness, external sources of happiness, which comes from the sense gratification, and he starts rejoicing. He starts enjoying within himself. You know, and sa brahm yoga yukt atma sukham akshayam ashnute. Brahma Yoga, such kind of Yukt Atma, right? Such kind of a person who has got this Brahma Yoga, one who has become elevated into this yoga, or basically Nishkam Karma Yogi who has become fixed up in this knowledge. Sukham Akshayam Ashnute, right? Sukham, happiness, Akshayam means unlimited. Ashnute means enjoys. He is able to enjoy unlimited happiness within. राइट सो यहाँ पे देखिए दो वर्ड आए विंदती भी आया विंदती मीन्स एंजॉय एंड अगेन अश्नुते भी आया जो एंजॉय राइट तो दो बार बताया गया कि कैसे once a person is situated upon this spiritual platform then he has no more attachment for the external sense gratification and he is able to rejoice within because of this knowledge one is able to derive the happiness of the soul one is able to derive the permanent happiness akshayam the unlimited happiness of the soul akshayam is permanent also right the translation, proper translation. Such a liberated person is not attracted to the material sense pleasure, but is always in the trance, enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness for he concentrates on the Supreme, because he starts to see. Now here, the focus has shifted to concentration upon the Supreme, right? So till 16th shloka, it was about one is just having concentration upon the Atma, upon the soul. But now, subsequent 17th onwards verses, because the person is not started also concentrating upon the Supreme, he is able to derive pleasure within. Of course, there's going to be some pleasure even when one has some realization about only Atma also, soul also. But one can get more happiness, unlimited happiness when one starts understanding about the Paramatma, about the Supreme Lord also. Right? So see here this 21st shloka. See what is the progression? What is the progression means how a person is able to delight internally, enjoy the happiness within. So first thing is one becomes detached from the external stimuli, right? So whatever external sources of the happiness are there, the sense enjoyments are available. First step is one becomes detached from the external stimuli. So this should happen in our life also. If we want to have experience of the spiritual happiness, inner happiness, then we have to first give up the desire for the material happiness. We should be able to see the futility of the material enjoyment. There's a lecture by spiritual master, futility of the material body and futility of the material life, like that. So one should be able to see how it does not lead to the happiness, but it leads to the misery. One should be able to develop detachment from the external sense gratification. Okay, this is the first thing. Then what will happen? Then second thing is one has to also then start seeking happiness inside, right? So that's why we study the Shastras. We try to practice Hare Krishna. No? So when we practice, then what will happen? So these are the practices which are meant for reviving our internal happiness. So this is the second step, that one has to start seeking happiness within, joy within. And then, how it will come? One has to start focusing upon the Supreme, concentrate on the Supreme. When we start focusing upon the Supreme Lord, when we start serving the Supreme Lord with love, then what will happen? Then what will happen eventually? We will be able to relish the imperishable happiness. This is going to happen. No? Then we will be able to, we will come to the stage, when we come to a stage of pure bhakti, then when we become a pure devotee, then we can always, constantly, without any hindrance, we can enjoy the internal happiness in our life. And before that also, to the degree we progress, to the degree we make advancement, to that degree we are able to have access to the happiness in our life. So this is a progression. First, one becomes detached from the external sense gratification. One starts seeking happiness within. One starts focusing upon the Lord, and one starts serving the Lord with love and devotion. And then we can come to the stage of being fully purified. We can come to the stage when we can have imperishable happiness. We can enjoy the imperishable happiness in our life. Now, for this to happen in our life, how it will happen? How these things can happen? How we can have detachment? The very first step is becoming detached from the material enjoyments, sense enjoyments. So how does it happen in our life? See, all these progressions happens in our life mainly by the means of the hearing. When we hear the spiritual knowledge, we understand about the temporary nature of this material world, material life, etc., etc. Right? And we understand about the glory of the spiritual life, the glory of the Supreme Lord, the glory of Bhakti to Krishna, so the glory of the spiritual world, the glory of Krishna's love for the devotees. So all these things, they are being initiated, and they reach to the perfection by the means of the hearing. So hearing is a very important process in the spiritual life. That's why Krishna also says in the seventh chapter, we'll find Tat Shanu. Krishna is saying that, please hear attentively. Hearing is very important principle in the spiritual life. So once we have gone to Tirupati for a yatra, so there one senior devotee was there. So he was telling that, all our problems are there because we have not heard. You have constipation, you have gas, and whatever problems you have, it is all because of not hearing. So now you see, okay, suppose if somebody says that, okay, you have a constipation, your stomach is not getting clear. Why it is there? Why it is there? Because you have not heard, because you are not hearing. How to relate? How to relate this? Any of you can relate? If suppose you have a bodily disease, कॉन्स्टिपेशन या फिर गैस का प्रॉब्लम हो गया और कोई बोले कि प्रभु क्योंकि आप हेयरिंग नहीं की हो इसलिए आपको ये दिक्कत हुआ है, कैसे आप उसको जस्टिफाई करोगे? Any
He,
of you?
the person,
हाँ.
he must not have heard that the advices of the scriptures and learned sages. Thus, he is having constipation.
ओ ओके, ठीक है. नॉट फुली
But
कंप्लीट आंसर.
is
Actually,
this
we
डॉक्टर की बात नहीं मानी हो? डॉक्टर ने जो बोला होगा वो नहीं सुना होगा।
ओके,
प्रभुजी
थोड़ा
ये
आप. हाँ.
मतलब इफ मतलब उन्होंने अगर पहले सुना होता तो हो सकता है मटेरियल बर्थ दोबारा नहीं लेना होता।
हाँ, ये बात है, मेन बात है, राइट? क्यों? इफ यू हैव हर्ड नाइसली, इफ यू हैव प्रैक्टिस नाइसली, यू विल नॉट हैव टू टेक एनी योर मेटल बॉडी एनी मोर, राइट? एंड नो मेटल बॉडी मीन्स नो मेटल miseries. So the reason we are having material miseries is because we have not heard properly. We have not followed properly in our life. Right? So hearing is very important in our spiritual life. That's the point, right? So when we do hearing, then all these progressions will happen. We'll have all these things. We can develop. So that's why if we are not doing proper hearing, then what will happen? These things will not be able to. This progression is not going to happen. No, which means what? Our attachment our desires for the sensual enjoyment will be there. It will be maintained and it will increase more and more. Because the very nature of the material life, material world is what? That it's a, there's a bombardment of material enjoyment all around us. So if we are not careful in hearing Krishna Katha, the spiritual knowledge, the Shastras, then what will happen? We will not be able to have control over our senses. We will not be able to control our desires for the sense enjoyments because we are already deeply conditioned by them. The swabhavas are there. We are trying to enjoy. I think we in one of the purpose, from time immemorial. From time immemorial, we are desiring to enjoy. That's why there are so many desires to enjoy. There's such a strong impression. Even after hearing spiritual knowledge, we find so much difficulty to take off our mind from the sense enjoyments. Why? Because that sanskar, there are deep impressions which are embedded in our consciousness. Even while chanting, sometimes you'll find sometimes some very bad things comes in our minds, right? Because those sanskaras, those impressions are there, very very powerfully embedded in our consciousness. So but if we hear properly and if we follow the process properly, then the purification will happen. We'll be able to have this detachment. We'll be able to look for the inner happiness. We'll be able to have focus upon the Lord, and we'll be able to release the internal happiness. Okay, so that's the hearing is very important thing. Okay, so please read the purpose purport. Purpose purport is also very powerful. Purpose is quoting Yamunacharya's very famous shloka. Yad
यमुनाचार्य
avadhi यद अवधिमं चेत कृष्णपदारविन्दे नवनवरस्थाम्नि उद्यतं गन्तुमासेत् तद अवति वातनारि सङ्गमे स्मर्यमाने भवति मुखविकारः सुष्ठु निष्ठिवनं च. Yeah, please read since I have.
Since
since
I have been engaged in the transcendental loving service of Krishna, realizing ever new pleasure in him, whenever I think of sex pleasure, I spit at the thought and my lips curl with distance. A person in Brahma Yoga or Krishna,
Distaste, huh? Go
a
ahead.
person, yeah, distaste. A person in Brahma Yoga or Krishna consciousness is so absorbed in the loving service of the Lord that he loses his taste for material sense pleasure altogether. The highest pleasure in terms of matter is sex pleasure. The whole world is moving under its spell, and a materialist person cannot work at all without this motivation. But a person engaged in Krishna consciousness can work with greater vigor without sex pleasure, which he avoids. That is the test in spiritual realization. Spiritual realization and sex pleasure go ill together. A Krishna conscious person is not attracted to any kind of sense pleasure due to his being a liberated soul.
Hmm. So the highest material pleasure available, the highest bodily pleasure available is the sex pleasure. And the whole world is moving under the spell. है ना? And a materialistic cannot work at all without this motivation, right? Prabhupada will often say that how the the reason for everyone to work very hard is because of the sex desire, the desire for the sensual enjoyment, sex desire, right? So there. So, but if somebody is engaged into Krishna consciousness, then one can get rid of this desire. Once one is spiritually situated, because see, the body may desire sex pleasure, but the Atma does not desire sex pleasure. The Atma is only longing for Krishna. Atma is only longing for Krishna. As long as one is not situated on that level, then the bodily desires matters. But if one is elevated in the knowledge, then one can do that. One time, a devotee was there. He was being called for giving a seminar on women empowerment, Nari Sashakti. Okay. The devotee told so very wonderfully points. He told that it's a it's an insult to the woman to have this kind of seminar, women empowerment, because women are the one who are empowering the whole world. Everyone was clapping like anything. They are the ones who are making everyone work. They are the reason for the technological advancement and for this and that things. Right? That's how the entire impetus for the material life is basically sensual enjoyment, sex pleasure. If there's no sex pleasure, if there is only if only there are men in the entire world, you'll find that no one will work so hard. No one will want to work so hard. So that's what Papa will often say that how sex life is the focal point. Just like in physics we have studied a focal point. So the whole the focal point for the material life is the sex pleasure. So and that's the main cause of the bondage. That's the shackle. Prabhupada will often say that how that's a hatakadi. जैसे जेल में किसी को इम्प्रिजन किया जाता है by the means of the हथकड़ी, वैसे ही वो भी वही shackle है. That's the chain by which we are bound up in this material world. Okay, now that's why we have to be very attentive to cure our this disease, And there's no other way to cure this disease except for Krishna consciousness. There's no other way. Only when we develop Krishna prem, then only one can get rid of the the sex desire, because it's simply a perverted form of our desire to please Krishna, love Krishna, serve Krishna. So to the degree our love for Krishna will manifest, to that degree our desire for the sex enjoyment will go down. That's the funda, There's only that thing, and this can only happen in the association of the devotees. If we're in the association of the devotees and we practice Krishna consciousness, then only gradually our love for Krishna can awaken and our desire, sex desire, can go down, can go away. That can happen. Okay. So here it is being mentioned that how a person becomes freed from the external stimulus. He starts seeking happiness within. He starts focusing upon the supreme, and he starts relishing the happiness. Okay. Now next shloka, Krishna is going to say about why one why one becomes distasteful towards the the sense enjoyments of this world. What causes, why one should give up the sensual enjoyment of this world. I think we'll just read this, maybe translation and all, and maybe tomorrow we'll be able to discuss that properly. ये हि संस्पर्शजा भोगा दुःख योनय एव ते आदि अंतवंत कौन्तेय न तेषु रमते बुधा. So what is the knowledge which helps a person to become detached from the material sense gratification? So this is the knowledge which Krishna is mentioning here. This is the knowledge. Yehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkha yona evate, right? Whenever there is a sparsha, whenever there is a touch of what? Yehi samsparshaja bhoga. No. Whenever there is a touch between the senses and the sense objects, bhoga means what? The sense enjoyment, the sense objects, right? Samsparsha jaha. No. Samsparsha jaha. Jaha means of whose, right? Whenever there is a contact of the material senses with the objects, then dukkha yonaya evate, right? It always leads to only dukkha. It is always going to lead to only the miseries. है Adi antmanta kaunteya nateshu ramte buddha. And what does it leads to? It leads to a kind of the thing, the happiness which is adi. Adi means which begins and which ends. है ना? It leads to such kind of happiness which has a beginning and which ends. And na teshu ramte buddha. That those who are buddhas, those who are intelligent people, learned people, they don't do raman. They don't delight in that happiness. That's what Krishna is mentioning. That how an intelligent person does not take part in the sources of the miseries which are due to the contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them, right? So a person who is awakened in the knowledge, he is able to see this, that how the sense gratification does not lead to the happiness, but it leads to only miseries. And even the so-called happiness which is there, it is only for a very short period of time. It begins and it ends. It means basically it's only for a very short period of time. Often the example is being given just like, somebody is being lost in the desert and he is very hungry and thirsty. And suppose he ends up with, somebody just offers him a drop of the water. So now, in front of the oceanic thirst which he may have, what is the value of that, a drop of the water? It is just insignificant. It can hardly fulfill the thirst. It can hardly satisfy the thirst of the person. Same way, there is some happiness. It's not that the happiness is not there, but happiness is there. Okay, that's why people are crazy. No, but that happiness is very, very temporary. That is very, very that's why they have no more desire for sense enjoyments. Which means what? See, here the thing is that a person is not his consciousness is no more external or from the outwards to inwards. Right? Then only you can perform the yoga. Then only you can fix your consciousness upon the soul and upon the supreme. Right? When your consciousness is inwards, the whole purpose of the yoga is ultimately to withdraw the consciousness from outwards to inwards. That outwards means what? The consciousness which is absorbed into sense gratification. That is outward consciousness. And what is inward consciousness? The consciousness which is focused upon the spiritual truths. That is the inward consciousness, right? The person, he understands about this knowledge. He is able to understand this, because of which he is not behind the external sense gratification, right? This is what is it. So I think we can read Papa's purport. Please read the Papa's purport. Material sense pleasure. Just we'll end with this. Papa's purport.
Material sense pleasures are due to the contact of material senses, which are all temporary because the body itself is temporary. A liberated soul is not interested in anything which is temporary, knowing well the joys of transcendental pleasures. How can a liberated soul agree to enjoy false pleasure? In the Padma Purana, it is said, Ramante yogino anante satyanande chitatmani इति रामपदे नाशौ परम ब्रह्मा विधीयते चैतन्य चरितमृत मध्य लीला 9.29 The mystics derive unlimited transcendental pleasures from the absolute truth, and therefore the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, is also known as Ram. Srimad Bhagavatam also 5.51, it is said, Nayam Dev, okay, there, Nayam
Nayam
Dev,
Deho. हाँ पढ़ो.
yes, Nayam Deho Dehe Bhajam Nirloke षष्ठान् कामान् अर्हते विदभुजां ये तपोदिव्यं पुत्रकायेन सत्त्वं शुद्धेत यस्माद् ब्रह्मसौख्यं त्वानन्तं. My dear sons, there is no reason to labor very hard for sense pleasure. While in this human form of life, such pleasures are available to the stool eaters, hogs. Rather, you should undergo penances in this life by which your existence will be purified, and as a result you will be able to enjoy unlimited transcendental bliss. Therefore, those who are true yogis or learned transcendentalists are not attracted by sense pleasures, which are the cause of continuous material existence. The more one is addicted to material pleasures, the more he is entrapped by material miseries.
The more one is addicted to the material pleasures, the more he is entered by the material miseries. Right? So, we'll discuss more some discussions about this tomorrow. Okay. So I think we'll end here now. Anyone has any questions, we can discuss about it.
Like in verse number 17, you were telling about this four factor. So like first was mind, intelligence, and faith, and refused to all the and refuse all and fixed on the supreme. So Priti, like why we have compared this mind with emotion? This we have not able to know.
देखिए, जो इमोशंस होते हैं ना, वो माइंड का ही होता है, माइंड का ही कॉम्पोनेंट होता है. जो भी हमको हैप्पीनेस, सॉरो, जो भी सारी फीलिंग्स कहाँ पे आती है? मन में आती है, राइट? माइंड इज अ स्टोर हाउस ऑफ ऑल अवर थॉट्स, डिजायर्स एंड द फीलिंग्स. ये सारी जो चीजें हैं वो हमारे माइंड में स्टोर होती हैं. तो जो इमोशंस थे वो मन से आते हैं ना, मेंटल. इट्स born from the mind. Of course the soul also has emotions. The soul is also having, but here we are talking about the material, what to say, material emotions which we experience in our life, right? That we get some happiness, we get some success, some material success, then we feel very joyful, like that, no? So it's more about the material emotions. So yeah, emotions are born from the mind. Emotions are like born from the mind.
So Priti, currently whatever emotions like
लस्ट,
spiritual.
एंगर, लस्ट,
Hmm.
एंगर, ग्रीडी, जो 6 टाइप के आपके जो इमोशंस है ना, 6 टाइप के जो ये आपके अनर्था जिसको हम लोग बोलते हैं, दे आर ऑल born from the mind only. The mind is the storehouse of all these 6 anarthas. Lust, anger, they are the main prime ones. Lust, anger, greed, envy, illusion, pride. They are the main emotions. They are the main, impurities of the mind. Of course, there are positive emotions also, happiness and satisfaction, joyfulness, all these things.
So Priti, this positive emotions like whatever that's related to soul, or can we say it's soul or like it's related to mind only?
Depends, like what is the source of those emotions, that depends. For example, like you're getting some material success and you're happy, so then the source is a material success. So that your emotion also material emotion, it's not a spiritual emotion, right? When it will be a spiritual emotion, when it is connected, when it is with a knowledge. Like for example, like see now, for us now, uh, before becoming a devotee or before understanding the spiritual knowledge, we may have some emotions for our parents. That it will be mainly because they are my parents and I have got birth from them. So it's a material emotions we may have felt, you know. But now when we get knowledge that we that okay, I am also soul, they're also souls, and they have taken care of me. You know, I should have some love for them. They also have love for me right now. So because it is now based upon the knowledge, then it is no more material. It is spiritual emotion. It can be a spiritual emotion. Spiritual emotion is the emotion which is based upon the knowledge. Material emotion which is based upon the ignorance. That is a distinction.
And Puji, this fourth factor, I'm not able to understand that.
The
About
goal. Refuge means what? Tat parayana. Parayana means the goal, right? So one should also fix one's goal. That consciousness is also determined by what is our goal. So that is the fourth factor, you know, goal. गोल भी हमारा डिटरमाइन करता है कि हमारा कॉन्शियसनेस क्या है, राइट? जैसे आप देखिए जो कर्म कांड करते हैं लोग, ना कर्म कांड पीपल देर आल्सो इन्वेस्टिंग देयर इंटेलिजेंस, देर आल्सो इन्वेस्टिंग देयर माइंड, देर आल्सो हैविंग फेथ ना, बट व्हाट इज देयर गोल इज गेटिंग सम मटेरियल बेनिफिट्स, right now, so that their goal is not proper in one way, right now. So that's the point, right now. So there it is told tat tat means what? Supreme, you know. So his mind is fixed upon the supreme, intelligence is fixed upon the supreme, faith is fixed upon the supreme, and his goal is also fixed upon the supreme. That's the point.
thank you.
Okay. और कुछ? ये समन प्रभु.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Yeah. Prabhuji, my question is that firstly, he detached oneself from the external things. Second, he rejoices the self, means he relishes the self realization. After
See,
that, he meditates.
all these things happen simultaneously, Prabhu. Just like in our
Okay.
case also, no? We are trying to become detached from the external sense gratification. We are also trying to become more deeper in our understanding about the spiritual knowledge. We are trying to become more deeper in our spiritual practices. So all these things happen simultaneously, है ना? It's not that ki only when one thing is fully finished, then you can move to the second stage. No, indeed, all these things happen simultaneously. Like, and we are trying to do some bhakti. We are trying to have some focus upon the Supreme Lord, some practice. We get some spiritual taste. By some spiritual taste, we are able to become more. We are able to we are able to give up the lower taste in the form of the sense gratification, right? So more we awaken the spiritual taste, more we are losing the taste for the material happiness, right? So these things happen simultaneously. It's not that when you become fully detached from the material enjoyments, then you start your journey for the spiritual enjoyments, because it does not happen. The Atma is a spiritual seeker, you know, and he has to have happiness. Only when he has experience of spiritual happiness, then only he can give up the material happiness. Right? So all these things happen simultaneously.
Yes, Prabhuji, my question was that in the devices, there are two types of sub presentations are there. That is, one goes through the Bhagavad Sakshatkar to self-realization, and one goes to self-realization to Bhagavad Sakshatkar. That is like Radheshyam Prabhu says one formula, what is there in it for me. So स्टूडेंट्स को अट्रैक्ट करने के लिए हम लोग ये प्रेजेंट करते हैं कि इसमें आपके लिए क्या है, और दूसरा मेथड रहता है कि हम लोग पहले प्रेजेंट कर देते हैं कि दी मिस्टी मीन्स इसके यूनिवर्स के पीछे कौन कंट्रोलर है, इसको प्रेजेंट करके बताते हैं. तो प्रो जी, तो कौन सा बेस्ट ऑप्शन रहेगा, मीन्स कि सेल्फ रियलाइजेशन के थ्रू जाएं, कि मतलब कि उसमें दिखाएं कि आपके लिए बेनिफिशियल के लिए इस सेशन में कौन सा रहेगा. जैसे कि फर्स्ट सेशन हम लोग दो वे से चलते हैं. एक तो दिखाते हैं कि भगवान का ग्लोरी बताते हैं कि इस मटेरियल वर्ल्ड में मटेरियल वर्ल्ड को कौन रन कर रहा है, मिस्ट्री मिस्ट्री मीन्स कौन कंट्रोलर है इस मटेरियल वर्ल्ड के. दूसरा क्या रहता है कि हम लोग ये दिखाते हैं कि अपना सेल्फ रियलाइजेशन से स्टार्ट करते हैं कि आप कौन हो, ऐसे प्रेजेंट करते हैं. अभी जो नया वाला राधेश्याम प्रभु जी का आया है डिवाइस, वो पहले सेल्फ रियलाइजेशन को दिखा रहे हैं, फिर जाके गॉड की सुप्रीमेसी को एस्टेब्लिश कर रहे हैं.
देखो, सेल्फ रियलाइजेशन का पार्ट क्या है? सेल्फ रियलाइजेशन का पार्ट ही है टू अंडरस्टैंड अबाउट वन सेल्फ, टू अंडरस्टैंड अबाउट द गॉड, राइट? वो सब उसी में इन्वॉल्व ही है. सेल्फ रियलाइजेशन का मतलब क्या है कि आपको अपने बारे में रियलाइजेशन लाना है. बट अपने बारे में रियलाइजेशन लाने का मतलब ये भी कि भगवान के बारे में भी रियलाइजेशन लेकर आना है. तो सब चीजें साइमल्टेनियसली, दोनों सब चीजों को साइमल्टेनियसली करने के, आपको सिर्फ पता चला कि मैं आत्मा हूँ, लेकिन आपका भगवान के साथ में क्या संबंध है आपको पता नहीं है, तो फिर फायदा क्या होगा, राइट ना? तो वो सब चीजें हम लोग पैरेलली करते हैं डिवाइस वेस में। आप लोग सी, डिवाइस इज अबाउट अवेकनिंग द जिज्ञासा। डिवाइस के जो सेशन हम शुरू में करते हैं वो जिज्ञासा लाने के लिए कि देखो भाई, हम अकेले, हम शरीर नहीं है, हम आत्मा है, और भगवान भी है, कोई मास्टरमाइंड है जिसने क्रिएशन की है, राइट? वो व्यक्ति का जो उस डायमेंशन को खोलने के लिए, उसके दिमाग को उस डायमेंशन में खोलने के लिए होता है शुरू में ना, जिज्ञासा बढ़ाने के लिए उसके बारे में। तब वो थोड़ा सोचने लगा कि अरे ठीक है, लाइफ में मतलब कि कुछ और टूल्स भी है जिसके बारे में मुझे जानना चाहिए, है ना? दैट्स व्हाट इज देयर ब्रो। तो मतलब एवरीथिंग इज अ पार्ट ऑफ सेल्फ रियलाइजेशन, टू नो अबाउट अवर सेल्फ, अवर आइडेंटिटी, टू नो अबाउट द सुप्रीम लॉर्ड, द क्रिएशन, ऑल दिस आर द पार्ट ऑफ द सेल्फ रियलाइजेशन। सबकी जरूरत है, मतलब
Okay.
ऐसा कुछ नहीं है कि सिर्फ आप सिर्फ आत्मा के बारे में सेशन रखोगे, बट आत्मा को करना क्या है, कहाँ से आया, क्यों आया, तो वो मैटर नहीं करेगा ना। सब सब मैटर, सब इम्पोर्टेंट है।
Yes, Prabhuji, I was asking that which method will be most effective, means like
डिवाइस
in
हैज बीन
दोनों में
ऑलवेज
से।
वेरी इफेक्टिव। डिवाइस हैज बीन ऑलवेज वेरी इफेक्टिव। इट
Yes,
इन्वॉल्व्स
Prabhuji.
इट इन्वॉल्व्स एवरीथिंग। जस्ट टेक इट, कॉपी सक्सेस।
Okay, yes,
ओके, और कुछ?
no, Prabhuji.